Hey there, and welcome to Connect the Dots Learning Center podcast. I'm Stephanie Wagers, your host, and I'm so glad you're here. Whether you're a seasoned therapist, clinic owner, or just starting out, this podcast is your go to spot for insights, tips, and stories that'll help you connect the dots in your practice. In today's episode, I'm joined by Dr. Zachry, occupational therapist, author of Retro Baby, and chair of the OT program at UT Health Science Center. With over 30 years of pediatric experience, Anne brings a powerful blend of clinical insight and practical advice that every pediatric provider and parent needs to hear. We talk about what inspired her to write Retro Baby, how tummy time and screen time are impacting development today, and the real challenges and opportunities facing modern day parenting. We also dive into her work with pediatricians, the importance of family centered care, and what every OT should know about supporting early development in a tech heavy world. This conversation is packed with wisdom, practical tips, and a healthy dose of humor, plus a few strong opinions about baby gear, milestone changes, and screen time. Trust me, you're going to want to take notes. Let's get into it. So, welcome, Anne Zachry. I'm super happy to have you today. You are a occupational therapist with 30 plus years experience, right? Professor and I said author already. What do you tell me about yourself?
Okay, I will. Well, I'm also a wife and mom of three adult children and a grandmother of two granddaughters that are underage too. So that's been fun. And then I'm also the chair of the occupational therapy program at UT Health Science Center. And I really enjoy working with the students. I teach the pediatric courses. I also enjoy research. So that kind of sums me up.
Yeah. Well, let's talk a little bit, kind of dive into your book, Retro Baby, which I love the title and it's right here. It'll look backwards on the camera, but I had so much fun looking through it. And I just want to hear what led you to write this book and who did you ultimately design it for?
Sure, that's a great question. I was working on my dissertation and trying to pick a dissertation topic. And at the end, I guess it was in the my son was born in 90. And so when he was born, babies were still sleeping on their stomachs.
Mhm.
And then in the late 90s, I had my two daughters, and they were the back to sleep. And I was also working as a therapist, and I started noticing that a lot of the children in the late 90s were having upper extremity weakness, difficulty holding a pencil by kindergarten age, issues like that. And so I sent some surveys home and found out kind of generally the underlying theme was limited tummy time, whether the baby resisted it or the parent was maybe afraid because they
Right.
knew the baby should be positioned on their back for sleep and they didn't understand tummy to play. And so that is how I kind of shaped my dissertation. I looked at positioning and development and crawling as it relates to um, overall development. And so then I just pulled from my dissertation to write the book. And
Okay.
the original title was Tummy Time Tips.
Okay.
And then I can't remember. I think one of my daughters suggested, well, it's so back to the basics. It's kind of retro. You should get retro in
Yeah.
the title. And so we pulled in retro baby.
Yeah, I love it. Well, and tell me a little bit, what kind of feedback did you get from pediatricians about this? Because they started to notice you, right? And your work.
Yes, yes. So I struggled finding a publisher at first because it was counterculture really to limit baby gear and back to the basics. It wasn't
Mhm.
pushing any products. So I finally reached out to the American Academy of Pediatrics, and within 2 weeks, I had a contract with them. They were interested because it's consistent with all of their recommendations.
Yeah.
And so I got a lot of positive feedback from pediatricians. A lot of pediatricians have copies in their practice available
Mhm.
for parents to look at. And then even just in general, pediatric occupational therapists really appreciated it because it's really what we talk about all the time, just floor
Yeah,
time, limiting baby gear, and
right,
DIY activities. You don't have to go to spend a ton of money to
right,
entertain the
right.
baby.
And you do it so beautifully. You write in a way that it's not shaming parents at all for anything they're doing, but just educating and kind of like showing why this is super important. And, we are a consumer of marketing and things and bells and whistles. And as a parent, you're like, oh, I want that and that and that without knowing any of the background behind maybe why those things aren't good for them. So I think this book is equally helpful for even the pediatric therapist to like have in their back pocket to show parents or to help use that language.
That's great. It's funny you say that because the first version was more academic, and the
Okay.
American Academy of Pediatrics said make it more, family, parent friendly, which was easy to do, but I was
Right.
just used to the writing for
Right.
academia. But it was really fun to kind of bring it down to everyday language that we use and making it relatable for parents, and definitely not to shame them because we know everybody's been busy with babies. You've got to get in the shower, you've got to unload the dishwasher. So,
Right. Right. All of which, if you do one or two of those things through the day, you've like mastered, right? Everything.
exactly. You've
Yeah.
accomplished
Yeah.
something.
Right. Right. Well, if there's one or two chapters in the book that you wish providers emphasized, what would you think that would be?
Definitely the chapter on tummy time, because it does give a lot of alternative approaches to just putting baby, prone on a flat surface. So you can put
Mhm.
them in your lap, holding, carrying positions. So
Mhm.
it does not have to be what a lot of parents think of as traditional tummy time. And the other one is the section on, or the chapter on plagiocephaly,
Mhm.
because there have been a lot of infants that have been diagnosed since the back to sleep and the onset of baby gear with plagiocephaly. And it gives just some basic strategies of,
Mhm.
alternating which end your baby's head is on in the crib,
Mhm.
several nights.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And you have beautiful pictures in there that a therapist could share directly to the family and, get the home exercise right then and there and
yeah.
share
And
it.
that was
Yeah.
fun. I was there for all the photos and
Mhm.
reached out to just people in the Memphis area. So it was nice to have local babies to work with.
Yeah. Yeah. If you were going to rewrite Retro Baby now, is there anything that you would update or like, especially as tech is developing so fast, what would you feel like would be a message for parents or providers?
So the original version came out in 2013 and
Hmm.
did do a revision. I can't remember what year it was, several years ago. So I did add some content about media, but that would be if I were to add any more to it, that would be what I would talk about is the phones, the impact that texting, and I mean every
Hmm.
time I go into a restaurant, I see children in front of screens and they're babies. They're not,
Babies. And they are just whipping around there like nobody's business.
you
Yeah,
can tell they know they've done it. They
they
know what
know.
they're doing.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, and I know it's hard, but we as parents didn't have that. And our kids learned how to interact and they lose out on so many social skills when they're
Mhm.
on the screen and not interacting with the people around them. So I think I would really hone in on that even more.
Yeah. And how would you explain that to a parent about why they're losing out on social skills?
Just by the exposure to interacting with it, for example, at a at
Mhm.
mealtime, please pass this, or excuse me, just general concepts, language concepts. And also I think I would get, there's a study that I read about that I thought was really fascinating that was done a while back, and it had a mom on a screen teaching a child an activity like block stacking. I can't remember if that's exactly what it was. And they did that with the babies in front of a big screen, and then they did it with the mom in person showing them. But the babies never had any hands on, but the
Hmm.
babies who saw it in person attempted the task more consistently. So I
Hmm.
think that just communicates that babies aren't understanding what's on the screen. They're
Hmm.
looking at the lights and the movement,
Hmm.
but it doesn't necessarily, especially the young babies, mean that they understand. So a lot of parents will say,
Right.
"Oh, and I think my baby's learning because they're doing
Yeah.
this educational app." And
Right.
I'm like, "Well, they could learn a lot more from us through interactions and language."
Yeah. And there's no dimension to the screen, right? So I
Right.
think that's a big part of it. Yeah. How far do
Absolutely.
I reach? What does that look like? Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly.
So kind of, and from your perspective, how do you think the developmental landscape has really is shifted today? What does that look like even today versus like 10 years ago?
It really, even with the new milestones that have come out from the CDC,
Hmm.
I mean, we're expecting milestones to come in later. We don't know the long-term implications for that, but I think that's related to the back to sleep, which I think every baby should always sleep on their back if at all possible, but which kind of resulted in limited tummy time, limited floor time. And so even the pediatricians will tell a parent a child's not walking at 18 months, and they're like, well, don't worry about it because that's kind of when they expect it now.
Yeah.
And it just concerns me that what are the long-term implications? We
Right.
don't know. Maybe there aren't any, but I feel like it's going to show up somewhere somehow. And the fact that crawling was taken out concerns
Yeah.
me. It was removed.
Yeah. It was
Milestone.
completely removed.
It was
Interesting.
completely removed. Yeah.
Okay.
And there are cultures where babies don't crawl because they don't put them on the floor. And so, I mean, I think that was their point, but I still think there's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of integration and, bilateral integration that happens, and it really impacts development in positive ways. So if they do it, then that's even better. If they don't, it doesn't mean it's the end of the world, but.
Right. And I like how you addressed that in the book. It wasn't like this red flag if they weren't crawling. It was ways that you could help kind of stimulate it and, prompt it, but not to make a parent panic if they weren't. So that was
Yeah.
really nice. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, I've had parents, I wrote an article for a magazine one time about the importance, a crawl, baby crawl was the name of the
Mm.
article. I had a lot of parents reach out to me on my blog and say, my baby isn't crawling. And I was like, oh, I should have toned that down. So for the
Hmm.
book, I definitely toned it down because I don't want
Yeah.
to alarm anybody.
Right. Right. Yeah. So what would you say the developmental issues are that you're seeing now more than a decade ago?
A lot. And I don't know if it's statistically across the country, but
Uh-huh.
definitely in my practice, I've seen a lot more plagiocephaly, a lot
Hmm.
more torticollis, a lot more just resistance to tummy time, which
Hmm.
results in delayed pulling up, um, sitting up. So just those they're very subtle delays, but it does impact. And then I feel like it impacts the baby's frustration level because they want to move, they want to be able to be independent and get around as much as they can.
Yeah.
And when they don't have the strength to do it, they can get frustrated.
Yeah. I know that me personally, just in our practice, and we see more like 4 to 5 year and on up age kids, but a lot more emotional regulation, a lot more anxiety kiddos. And I have to wonder, just that whole body perception and all of that. Where's that connection?
That's such a good point. And my first thought is to always go to motor skills, but I mean, yes, the landscape for kids with their stress levels, emotional landscape, I guess you would call it, is definitely
Mhm.
more intense.
Yeah.
And I mean, it feels like it's got to be a lot harder than it used to be a kid, where you could just go
Yeah.
outside and play. There was,
Right. Play, work things out, right? If you had something happen at school, you're going to play about it, get those
yeah.
feelings out. And now I don't feel like that's an option. So it's
Exactly.
watch a show or do this or do that, which just kind of feeds that anxiety.
The
Yeah.
other big thing, I mean, it's the anxiety and then obesity, children
Hmm.
heavier than they used to be, which that impacts, when they're have it when they're younger, it impacts motor skills. And so there's a lot of variables at play, and it's hard to pinpoint which ones really need to be addressed because they're all tied together.
Yeah. Yeah. What do you wish that every pediatric provider really understood about early motor development and sensory processing?
I, I wish that they understood that sensory processing is a real, sensory processing disorders are real challenges that children deal with. That was one thing the American Academy of Pediatrics, I had the chapter on sensory, but
Hmm.
they made me edit it to say that it's associated with other
Hmm.
diagnoses, which hopefully with research coming down the pipe, that
Yeah.
will change. But so to understand sensory processing issues, to refer to OT
Yeah.
when necessary, and to be able to make recommendations for providing supports that can be embedded in the home routines.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah, I think that's
Yeah.
critical.
Which wouldn't it be wonderful if we could be in primary care?
Yes,
Which
I
solves
spoke
so
on
many
that at our
problems.
conference this past weekend, Tennessee Occupational Therapy Association, on OT and pediatric primary care and how we really need to get out there and market ourselves because
Yeah.
we could we could benefit the pediatrician's practice, the
Mhm.
family benefit, and the studies that I read to prepare for it said that it ends up paying for itself.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
sure. So, what is keeping us from being there? Is it billing, insurance?
And lack of awareness of the pediatricians of what we have to offer. So if in the studies that I read, when the OT went in and really presented what they can do, the benefits, the like satisfaction of the patients or the parents that would
Mhm.
increase, and then that their services can be billed for, the pediatricians tended to embrace it, but it was really more of increasing the awareness because
Mhm.
they think OT fine motor, but they don't really think about
Right.
development, sensory, routines, sleeping, sleep hygiene, all the different areas that we can
Yeah.
address.
Yeah. I just feel like if, in my head, I've always wanted to like have a contract with a pediatrician where maybe they do well checks on one day and I or somebody is present and you can be in there, you can watch the screening, you can participate in the screening, and then just identify little quick things that the parent can work on right then and there or refer before, the skills get even farther down the road.
I did a little pilot study several years ago at a pediatrician's office
Mhm.
practice not far from our campus, but it was grant funded, so we didn't bill, which made that simple. But I was there one day a week for the well child visits, and I did. I brought students with me, and we assisted with the screenings, and then we helped the parents when we had to refer to TEI or early intervention. We've helped the parents access services because that can be overwhelming too.
We can.
And it
Yeah.
really, the pediatricians loved it. Of course, I mean, I work full time as a faculty member, so it was just a trial basis, but they were
Yeah.
very satisfied.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, hopefully your talk, or you already did the talk, or you're going to do the talk.
I did, and I had
Okay.
someone reach out already, a practitioner that
Oh,
wants to
good.
market her services. So we're going to try to do a little mini study, I guess, on that. But I mean, and I think with the entry level OTD, that maybe some of those students can do a project on OT and primary care. Their capstone project could be related to that.
Mhm.
So
Yeah,
that
that'd be
that could be
wonderful.
promising.
Yeah, hopefully in the next couple of years we can
I
get
know.
there. Yeah, yeah. Well, let's kind of talk about the dreaded topic of screen time, specifically related to how a therapist can talk to a family about it, because it can be a very sensitive topic. A lot of kids come in on a screen. And then as a provider, it can be really hard to get them off the screen to come into the therapy room. So, what would you
Absolutely.
tell a provider? Like what, kind of an elevator speech?
To be honest, I have not come up with an effective elevator speech. It is
Okay.
such a touchy
It
subject,
is.
and I mean, obviously, I probably would too, but the parents seem to get defensive.
Mhm.
So what I've tried to do more is model it for the parents. So
Mhm.
if the child comes in the first time and they're on a screen, once we get them away, I might mention next time, but when you come in, if you could avoid the screen, and then very gradually introduce or share information about how the screen impacts development in multitude
Mhm.
of ways. Um,
Mhm.
but I do it very gradually so as not to bombard the
Right.
parent because it is overwhelming. And I found that a lot of parents are misinformed. As I said earlier, they think that their child is learning and it's helping their motor skills when they're on
Mhm.
swiping. And
Mhm.
so just explaining the difference in, how important it is to manipulate as opposed to swipe across a screen or press
Right.
a
Yeah, and I think you mentioned in your book that it was no screens at all before age 2 at all, right?
right. And then the more recent AAP recommendations that have come out say 18 months, they can start being introduced to, is it FaceTime? I think it's
Mm, okay.
FaceTime with family
Interesting.
members. And
Okay.
um, and I don't know if that was based on research or if they just had so much pushback because
With COVID, maybe?
yeah, that's what I was
Huh.
wondering.
Yeah,
So
interesting. Um, yeah, the screen time thing is big. How about relating it to, you talk in your book a little bit about how when they're, watching something and they're not playing, and kind of talk us through how we've kind of lost, I would say, the ability to play with cardboard box or whatever it is that really helps that child learn and explore. And now we have these techie tools or alphabet thing that you hit one button and it does everything for you.
yeah, there's no creativity or critical thinking required. And
Hmm.
that is problematic. I mean, we know motor skills and the manipulation and all is important for the physical and motor skill development, but I have to wonder how is it impacting cognitive development if they just
Right?
push a button and see something light up, as
Yeah.
opposed to manipulating in their hands and
Hmm.
um, just like the shape sorters that are such a traditional great
Yeah.
toy. And now they have the versions that are like on a screen. And like you said earlier, it's not 3D. So
Right.
they're not grasping the 3D concept and they're not having to use their mental skills to
Yeah. Yeah. I had a parent say to a provider, the toys are just so boring that you're using. And they were like, shapes, or it's like these aren't to entertain you.
that's right. The baby is never bored with them. And I mean, it's
No.
like when you give them a box, a shoe box or something, and they'll take the top on and off and on and off. That's how they're learning. So
Yeah.
it's that
It was,
repetition. But yeah, that's funny. I can relate. I've had parents say that and like, well, they're not going to want to play with that. Look, why are you pulling out the ring stacking?
yeah. But I think that it's our job to educate why we're doing that. And I don't think that we're very good at that sometimes.
Sometimes not. I mean, in our sessions at our clinic, we always have the parents in the room with us. And so we're narrating or we're having the
Mhm.
students narrate,
Yeah.
see how he or she is holding this with two hands,
Yeah.
talking about the different, just the ways that they're promoting their development when they're
Mhm.
interacting with those very basic blocks
Mhm.
and toys. Oh, the other thing that we didn't even mention, I wonder about, and I know that there's been some research on the implications for screen time and visual skills and visual perception and visual acuity.
Right. Yeah,
So,
well, I know that just in talking with my friend who's an eye doctor, she was talking about they're seeing macular degeneration happening with young kids because they're on their screens so much.
Wow.
I know.
That is scary. That is
It's
so
really
scary.
scary.
Uh,
Really, really scary. And we know the impact it's having on social skills, right?
yes.
You
I
you
mean, you
you
can't help
have
but see it.
no, the kids get together, they organize something and then they're all on their screens. It's like, what are you
Yeah.
doing?
It's so frustrating to me. It's hard as an OT to like try to tone it down and not lecture, but sometimes I do.
I know. It's this balance,
With
right?
my nieces and
Yeah.
nephews, they're like, "Oh no, she's gonna
There it comes
here she
again.
comes
Right.
again."
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
maybe one day they'll understand, or I think they do when they have their own kids. They're like, "Oh, now I get it."
Yeah. Right. If a parent asked you, what age would it be okay to give my child a
Oh,
phone?
I
Never, right?
I mean, I guess I don't know if I would say an age. I would say as long as you can put it off, put it off. And I mean, ultimately, you can put it off as long as you want because you're the
Mhm,
parent and you're in
mhm.
control. But it's, I would say, I'm trying to remember what age my daughters were, but I look back and I feel like it was even too young then. And
Yeah.
they were
Mhm,
probably 14, maybe or
mhm,
15, but
mhm.
still I felt like they just checked out at that point. We were in the car. They always, looking down
Yes.
and even their
Yeah.
interaction, not just with their peers, but with parents and siblings
Uh-huh.
down. So
Yeah, you miss those little moments of checking in. How was your day? Finding out any problem areas.
yes. And then
Mhm,
the pressure that they're under because everybody's posting what's so great in life. And it's
mhm.
like they think that all their peers have everything they want and their
Yeah.
lives are perfect. And then it puts so much pressure on.
Yeah. I remember one of my kids saying, "Oh my gosh, she left me on red. How rude." And I was like, "What?" I was like, "What does that even mean?" And
I don't know
I,
either.
I was like, she just, the text was delivered and it just sat there and wasn't like opened or responded to.
Oh,
And I was like, you do realize that people are busy, right? But there's this like instant gratification that kids, and
yeah,
it's this personal feeling of they left me unread, they don't care about me. So there's so many
right.
layers to it,
Yeah, I mean, impulse control. I mean, they
right?
felt it's like my kids will do that. Like, you didn't respond to me. I'm like, yes, I was cooking dinner or
I
reading a
know.
book.
Yes, yes. Oh my gosh. Well, I want to talk a little bit about your blog because it's amazing. How long have you been doing your blog?
Think I started in 2009.
Okay.
And it's been a learning curve. I had no computer skills. My son was helping me at the time, but I the I think the beginning of it was when I was practicing in the school system and I would send
Hmm.
home, I had a lot of home programs or home activities that I had
Hmm.
written up, just paper sheets, and
Yeah.
I was sending those home. And then when everybody started getting online, I was like, well, I'll just convert all those. So that's what I did
Right.
first. I went through all my programs and information and converted that. And then I
Yeah.
started getting a lot of positive feedback. And so I just kept it up and I still
Yeah.
enjoy it.
Can you kind of tell us a little bit about it? Like when I looked at it, it's very well organized. There's different sections. Yeah.
Yeah, so I did add an evidence-based section for therapists, but
Okay.
I primarily developed it for parents.
Hmm.
But then I found that I had a lot of OT students and OTs that were also referring to it. So now it's kind of a mixture, but there are sections on sensory processing, fine motor skills. So there's informational pages and then there's activity pages. I try to incorporate as many videos as I can because I know that's the going thing, but
Hmm.
that's harder to do now when,
Takes time.
yeah, yeah, it
Yeah.
is.
And just getting everyone to sign the releases and
Yes. But fortunately, my students are usually agreeable. So they do some really cool projects in the
hmm.
pediatrics course, and they'll give me permission to post their projects.
Hmm.
And they're usually intervention projects that might be something that a parent or a therapist would want to implement with their child. So
Hmm.
So those are fun to go through and look at. There's a
Yeah.
section on visual perceptual skills, and then therapy on a shoestring budget,
Yes. Yeah.
which
I
is my
love that.
favorite. I love to go either just digging through the junk closet or to Dollar Tree and
Uh-huh.
just,
I always tell my own therapist, like, you should be able to do therapy with a toilet paper roll or a pencil. You shouldn't need all of this stuff.
yes. And
Yeah.
now with early intervention, they don't want you bringing in all your, we used to carry the
Good.
therapy
Right.
balls, and now you go
Yeah.
in and you work with what's in the home.
Okay. Well, that's a nice shift.
It is because parents can see, oh, I don't have to have all of that expensive gear. I just need, like you said, a toilet paper roll or,
Hmm.
a napkin, folding paper towels, or
Hmm.
pulling them in and out of a water bottle.
Right. Right. Yeah. I've noticed in our practice, just, I've been practicing for almost 30 years. And in the beginning, kids would come into the sensory room and just be like, oh, it was like a candy store. They were just so excited. And now it's like it's not exciting,
Right.
right? And when we test ideational praxis, that's the piece that I noticed has really been impacted with kids.
Really.
Mhm. Because they're not having to like, oh, what can this toilet paper do? Right? The old school
Right.
play versus this. Yeah.
That makes sense. And, I'm working with such much younger population, so I'm
Yeah.
not seeing quite that age level. That's interesting.
Kind of moving a little bit towards wrap up, but what is one myth about OT you wish that we could just get rid of once and for all?
That it's just like PT, except it's for the upper extremities. It's so tired of hearing that because it just
Yeah.
totally just ignores the holistic aspect of what we do,
Right.
um, and the creativity that's involved. So, I mean, my students come up with some really good elevator pitches to explain OT, and they talk about explaining what occupations are. And
Mhm.
I think if we could move in that direction and get away from it's like PT, but because
Yeah.
we're our own unique, distinct profession, and
Hmm.
really payers and our stakeholders are not going to see our value if we don't or aren't
We
able
don't
to
show
actually
it.
articulate it. Yeah.
Hmm. Hmm.
Just like with the
Yeah.
pediatricians in primary care, they have to know what we have to offer. And usually when they find out, they're like, oh my gosh,
Right.
that would be amazing. Think about how many times we go into even our physician and they don't have time to explain diagnosis or maybe for an elderly patient, fall precautions, things like that. They leave. The OT could come in and do all that
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
make it meaningful to the patient or client. So,
Yeah. Yeah. And I think in those instances where it's kind of like, let's wait and see, because I think parents hear that a lot. They're not talking yet, but let's wait and see, or they're not crawling yet. Let's wait and see. We could just be in there and just say, why don't you try these three activities?
so
Let me show you
simple.
how. So
Yes.
simple.
And then if
Yeah.
they're still not getting it, then maybe they
That
don't wait as long and they get back,
right.
get some support.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I think
For
that
sure.
one thing that I didn't mention earlier about the pushback on the milestones, but it's impacted the ability to qualify for services for some infants, which, the longer they
Yeah. I
stay,
didn't think
those
about that. And
it,
they
it,
stopped adjusting for prematurity,
correct.
correct? Why? What do you think about that?
I don't agree with it, and I'm not sure of the reasoning behind
Yeah.
it, but I mean, I know the the preemies that I've worked with, I mean, they're definitely developmentally where they are developmentally, not where
Right.
they are age
Hmm.
wise. So,
Hmm.
I mean, we do have to gear our therapies to that
Well, and
level.
it sends a mixed message to the parent too, right? So if you
Right.
had a, you know, 28-week preemie who's now 6 months old, they are not really 6 months old
No, and the
developmentally.
parent expects them to be,
Yes.
then they're going to stress out. It's kind of like
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
perpetuated.
I'm curious. I'll have to do a little bit of digging and try and figure that out, but I don't know why they did that.
Yeah.
I don't know if
So
it was a
thinking
testing item.
possibly. You never
Mhm.
know what the reasoning is, but I mean,
No.
I don't agree with it, and I don't agree with later access to early intervention services because we know that they're effective. So why not start as early as it's needed?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it absolutely cannot hurt.
No, no, at all.
No. If a provider listening wanted to adjust one thing to change about their approach in developmental care, what would you recommend for them?
Educating parents and empowering
Mm,
parents and really brushing up on the coaching that we learned about in school because those coaching practices are so empowering to
mhm,
parents and families and they're figuring it out on their own without being spoon-fed, and it means more, and they usually will implement more if they've problem solved through it with a little bit of coaching and support. So I think that would be my recommendation, and just staying family centered.
mm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Anne, where can people find you?
So I'm on Facebook and Instagram. I'm not as regular, but and I've got an email address I think I shared with you.
Yep.
So yeah,
In your blog, in
in
your
my
book
blog,
is on
absolutely.
Amazon. Yeah.
Yes,
So I will put all those links in there. What is next for you? Do you have another book in the works or what is kind of in your pocket?
I have thought about a couple of topics for books, but I'm in the middle of an infant development study right now that I'm working on through UT, where I'm following infants from birth to age 4.
Okay.
And the parents are tracking tummy time, time in gear, screen time, time with interacting with the parents, and I'm texting them and they're responding. That is very time consuming. So I think I'm probably 2 years into that. So I probably have 2 more years of that.
Wow.
Then I'll start thinking about other books. But I really do want to see I mean, with 4 year olds, if there's any kind of relationship between what's
Mhm.
happening or not happening so
Mhm.
early on, in the later years. So
Yeah. Well, I
thinking,
can't wait for it to come out. You know, there has to be. There just
yes,
has to be. Yeah.
yes, it's just exactly what are the impacts. Yeah.
Right. Yes. Well, I appreciate your time today. You're a wealth of information. If you haven't looked at Anne's book, you definitely need to because it's amazing and it needs to be either in your pocket or in your practice or handing out to parents.
Well, thank you. That makes
You're
me
welcome.
feel good to hear you say that.
Good.